104 matches.
48 teams.
39 days. And a staggering $15 billion real estate footprint.
Yeah, it is a scale that honestly almost defies comprehension.
Welcome to today's Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we're looking at a stack of sources that outline the new era of mega football.
Right, and glad to be here to unpack this with you. Because when you look at the raw numbers, you realize this isn't just a sporting event anymore.
Not at all.
It's basically a pop-up geopolitical economy that, temporarily reorganizes the infrastructure of entire nations.
Exactly. And our mission for you today, the listener, is to figure out how this massive expansion is actually being pulled off. Like, who really benefits from a supersized tournament format?
And, well, what happens when the physical limits of our planet push back against this kind of unlimited growth?
Because we've got a lot of ground to cover. We're pulling from the Wikipedia pages for the 2025 FIFA Arab Cup and the 2026 FIFA World Cup, along with news reports on international qualifying, specifically for Iraq and Egypt.
Right. Plus, we're digging into FIFA's own strategic objectives report and a breakdown of the stadium infrastructure and some pretty concerning delays.
The delays are wild. So whether you're a die-hard football fan who tracks all the qualifying stats, or you're just someone fascinated by high-stakes global economics and, logistics, this deep dive is going to give you a backstage pass to the money, the drama, and the architecture of the globe's biggest cultural events.
It's going to be a fascinating ride.
For sure. So to understand where we're going with the 2026 expansion, we actually need to look at a tournament that just wrapped up.
The 2025 FIFA Arab Cup in Qatar.
Right. It ran from December 1st to the 18th. And looking at the sources, Morocco claimed their second title by beating Jordan 3-2 after a really grueling extra-time final at Lusail Stadium.
Yeah, and Jordan's Ali Olwan had a phenomenal run. He took home the top scorer honors with 6 goals.
Which is impressive. And the branding was completely locked in, too. They had this mascot named Juha, based on a classic folk character, so it had all the trappings of a top-tier global event.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the real story isn't who lifted the trophy.
Oh, no.
No, the real story is that the Arab Cup basically functioned as an accidental dress rehearsal for the entire concept of modern mega football.
Right, because they utilized 6 of the venues from the 2022 World Cup, and these are billion-dollar state-of-the-art facilities.
Exactly. But the most telling moment of the entire tournament was the third-place playoff between Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, wow. Yeah. The sources say that match was actually abandoned at halftime.
Yeah, tied at 0-0. The referee just called it off due to adverse weather and player welfare concerns. FIFA ultimately had to declare them joint third-place winners.
Wait, really? A major medal match just canceled halfway through?
Yeah, and we need to look at the mechanism behind that failure. Because this wasn't just a simple rain delay.
Right.
The player welfare concerns were triggered because a freak torrential downpour combined with a sudden massive humidity spike. And it completely overwhelmed the stadium's infrastructure.
So the technology just failed.
Basically. The highly engineered HVAC systems, which were designed to push cool air down to the pitch level, essentially created a microclimate condensation trap when they got hit with that external weather anomaly.
Oh, so it just trapped all the moisture.
Exactly. The drainage limits of the hybrid grass were exceeded, turning the pitch into this dangerous slip zone. The risk for muscle tears and ligament damage just became too high.
I mean, I have to push back here, or at least point out the obvious. If a regional tournament operating in a highly concentrated area with pre-existing world-class infrastructure...
Infrastructure literally designed to air condition the desert.
Right. If that can have a major medal match derailed by weather, isn't that a massive red flag for a continent-spanning tournament?
That is the exact nightmare scenario. If a system that advanced fails under sudden environmental pressure, how on earth do you manage 48 teams flying across 3 massive, climatically diverse countries?
The United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Yeah, over the course of 39 days. It requires bending physical cities to the needs of the tournament.
Which brings an unprecedented level of logistical friction. But before we even get to the stadiums, we have to look at the sheer mathematics of the expansion.
The jump from 32 teams to 48 teams.
Right, which ballooned the schedule to 104 games. And the format drama leading up to this was a masterclass in unintended consequences.
Oh, it really was. When FIFA originally approved the expansion back in 2017, the plan was to have 16 groups of 3 teams.
Which, sounds mathematically clean until you introduce game theory. Critics immediately pointed out that a 3-team group structure introduces a massive vulnerability for collusion.
It's essentially a high-stakes game of musical chairs.
Exactly. Because if there are only 3 teams in a group, the final match day of that group stage only involves 2 of those teams.
Right. The third team has already finished their schedule, and they're just sitting in their hotel watching.
So if the 2 teams playing that final match know exactly what mathematical result they both need to advance,
Say a mutually beneficial 1-1 draw.
yeah, they create what's called a Nash equilibrium. Both teams achieve their optimal outcome by putting down their weapons and just passing the ball around the back line for 90 minutes.
Actively freezing out the third team in the hotel.
Right. And we saw this exact scenario play out in the 1982 disgrace of Dijon between West Germany and Austria.
The sporting integrity is completely compromised by the structural math of it all.
So they had to publicly pivot in 2023 back to a more traditional but much larger format. 12 groups of 4 teams.
Where the top 2 teams, plus the 8 best third-place teams, advance to a new round of 32.
But that pivot is what pushed the match count from 80 up to 104. And if we look at FIFA's document, the strategic objectives for the global game 2023 to 2027, the motivation seems blindingly clear.
Goal number 11.
Yes, explicitly stated, achieve a minimum of 11 billion USD revenues.
Because the expansion is a massive financial engine. That record $11 billion target relies heavily on the sheer volume of ticketing inventory and expanded broadcast hours that 104 matches provide.
Right, maximizing leverage for corporate sponsorships.
Exactly. But I know you have some thoughts on this.
Well, yeah, I have to challenge this premise on behalf of the listener. Are we just sacrificing the elite, concentrated quality of the traditional tournament and risking massive scheduling nightmares just to hit an $11 billion revenue target?
Or is there a genuine sporting benefit here?
Right.
Are we reverse engineering the sport to fit a corporate spreadsheet?
That skepticism is totally warranted when you look from the top down. But if you invert the perspective, the spreadsheet math actually creates massive geopolitical and sporting opportunities.
So?
By completely altering the destinies of smaller footballing nations. The expansion guarantees regional access. Africa now has 9 guaranteed spots. Asia has 8.
So the psychological barrier to entry has been permanently lowered.
Exactly. And the sources surrounding Iraq's current qualifying campaign illustrate that psychological shift perfectly.
Right. They are pushing for their first appearance since 1986. And the historical context of that 86 team, according to the sources, is incredibly dark. Extremely dark. We should be clear, we are just reporting what the historical sources state here, not endorsing any political views. But back then, the Iraqi Football Association was run by Uday Hussein, Saddam Hussein's son.
Right. And the fear-based motivation of that era is well documented. Players faced severe physical punishment for poor performances.
The psychological terror those players endured during the 1986 tournament in Mexico is hard to overstate. They weren't just playing against opponents.
They were playing against the immediate threat of violence waiting for them back home.
Exactly. But contrast that survival mode environment with the squad today. You have a highly cosmopolitan team managed by a Spanish coach, Jesus Casas.
And playing in Basra in front of 150,000 fans.
Right. Plus, you have Ali Al-Hamadi making history as the first Iraqi to play in the English Premier League for Ipswich.
Oh, wow.
The political normalization of hosting matches in Basra is a massive diplomatic victory. It shifts the national narrative from historical trauma to modern potential.
And then you look at a team like Egypt, who the sources say has already dominated their group, including a 3-0 demolition of Djibouti.
Yeah, Mohamed Salah has been operating at his absolute peak. 9 goals in the qualifying stages.
But Egypt represents a totally different psychological profile, right? I mean, they don't really struggle to qualify. They made it in 1934, 1990, and 2018.
Right, but they carry this heavy historical baggage. Despite producing some of the greatest players in African history, Egypt has never won a single World Cup match.
Wait, really? Never?
Never. They're desperate to rewrite that narrative.
But wait, if we look at the new format rules we discussed earlier, the math fundamentally changes the psychology for a team like Egypt.
How do you mean?
Well, under the expanded format, the top 2 teams advance, plus the 8 best third-place teams. That means a team could theoretically draw all 3 of their group stage matches, not win a single game, and still advance to the knockout rounds.
Oh, that is the ultimate irony. A nation desperate for their first ever tournament victory might not even need one to reach the knockout phase.
Wow.
For veterans like Salah, the 2026 expansion isn't just a chance to participate. It's a structural loophole that significantly increases their odds of deep tournament survival.
It's like they've finally opened the doors of the VIP room to the entire club. Yes, the club makes more money at the door, but suddenly these incredible emotional underdog stories get a global spotlight. You can't help but root for them.
Absolutely. You have teams arriving with completely different definitions of what success looks like.
But integrating 48 distinct traveling contingents with their security details and broadcast teams, it isn't just a spreadsheet problem.
No, it requires physical cities to adapt.
Which is why the real estate footprint for this tournament is jumping to $15 billion across 16 host cities.
2 in Canada, 3 in Mexico, and 11 in the United States.
Let's run through some of the tech marvels from the sources, starting with SoFi Stadium in LA. It's a $6 billion marvel with a translucent roof.
Right, and the engineering challenge there is immense. If you build a solid roof, you block the weather, but you kill the natural grass pitch.
Because it needs a specific spectrum of light to survive.
Exactly. So the solution they engineered is a canopy made of ETFE film, ethylene tetrafluoroethylene.
Okay, that is a mouthful. What does it do?
It's a highly specialized plastic that's incredibly lightweight, allows the exact UV spectrum needed for grass growth, but actively blocks the solar heat gain.
Oh, so it protects 70,000 fans from the elements without turning the interior into a greenhouse.
Precisely. And up in Silicon Valley, Levi's Stadium tackled the environmental impact through biological engineering.
Right. They built a 27,000 square foot green roof covered in native Californian vegetation.
It isn't just for aesthetics. That massive layer of soil acts as a thermal mass insulator. It lowers the internal cooling costs and captures heavy storm runoff.
And then you have AT&T Stadium in Texas, spanning 3.2 million square feet, with these operable glass doors measuring 180 by 120 feet.
Which allows them to manipulate the internal air pressure and create highly controlled microclimates.
But the sources pivot to a really sharp contrast when talking about Estadio Azteca in Mexico City.
Yeah, the Azteca is sacred ground. First stadium to host 3 World Cups.
Right, the site of Maradona's Hand of God. But the news reports reveal a massive crisis.
What's happening on the ground?
Well, with less than 100 days to go until it hosts the June 11 opening match between Mexico and South Africa, the stadium is allegedly missing seats. And the massive press areas are still active construction zones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exposed wiring, raw materials just scattered around.
Wow.
This is wild. It's like spending $15 billion on the most high-tech, lavish wedding in history. But the historic church where the ceremony is supposed to start is literally missing its pews.
That is a perfect analogy. And the dissonance between the official PR and the reality is stark. The venue director insists it'll be ready, but local journalists are painting a picture of frantic, disorganized scrambling. How does FIFA balance building the future while scrambling to patch up the past? Because they are threatening to change the venue entirely if it fails inspections. And those inspections are set for late March and May 10th. Think about the logistical nightmare of moving an inaugural match involving a host nation just weeks before kickoff.
Rerouting security perimeters, scrambling hotel blocks, it would be a disaster.
An unprecedented operational disaster, which really forces us to synthesize everything we've examined in this deep dive.
Right. We looked at a localized Arab Cup medal match, completely abandoned due to weather.
We analyzed a 48-team format engineered for $11 billion in revenue, which simultaneously completely alters the psychology for nations like Iraq and Egypt.
And we're watching a frantic race against the clock to modernize historic infrastructure in Mexico City.
It shows a sport stretching itself to the absolute logistical and financial limits.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, whenever you tune in to watch a match, remember, you aren't just watching a game. You are watching the culmination of billions of dollars, geopolitical maneuvering, and the hopes of entire nations colliding on a single patch of grass.
And I'll leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've seen that weather can force the cancellation of a medal match in Qatar, and construction delays can threaten an opening ceremony in Mexico, despite billions of dollars spent.
Right.
It makes you wonder, as the climate changes and global infrastructure costs soar, are we rapidly approaching the physical limit of how big a single sporting event can actually get?
When does the scale of the spectacle finally become too heavy for the Earth to hold?
Keep that in mind the next time you see those 48 teams take the field.
We'll leave you to explore that on your own. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the source material.
That's a wrap for today, folks.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe.
Click the button below for more great content.